Welcome. Thank you for tuning into Silver Consulting's virtual event on globalization across culture and design. My name is Roshni Modi, and I'm a member of the social media team here at Silver Consulting. Today, we have two exciting guest speakers joining us. First, you'll be hearing from Innovation Coach and Consultant Maria Duloquin. Maria will be talking about globalization of ideas and knowledge and the importance of culture and design to enable the newly accelerated global mindset. After Maria, we will hear from Mudassir Azeemi, who is a design system product manager at RingCentral. Mudassir will be talking about globalization of cultural intelligence and improving its effectiveness in culturally diverse situations.
Our first speaker is an innovation coach and facilitator who helps global corporate teams and organizations reach purposeful goals faster through design thinking workshops, design sprints, and hackathons. Following a decade of global marketing agency experience via growing virtual developer conferences, Maria now develops hackathons and sprints around the world, helping teams solve real-world problems in 48 hours. Passionate about rapid, sustainable innovation and testing ideas through prototyping, Maria loves to see ideas come to life, even better if they make the world a better place. So, without further ado, Maria Duloquin.
Hi everyone, I'm Maria and I am really happy to be here today to talk about globalization across culture and design. And in this talk, we will explore the possible future of globalization, the role of collaborative innovation to implement new ideas, and the importance of culture and design to enable a new global mindset. First, a quick intro. I'm Maria Duloquin. I grew up in southwest London and I'm half English, half Mexican. I'm married to a French man and I was recently living in Dubai for 2 years. So a few globalization stories in their own rights. As an independent innovation consultant, design sprint facilitator, and hackathon organizer, I support organizations reach goals faster through innovation workshops, sprints, and hackathons. For those that don't know, this is a hackathon. It's a collaborative event where teams work together on important challenges over 2 days. And they leverage their diversity, different skills, different seniority, different departments, culture, age, social demographics, and languages to create innovative solutions in just 2 days. And it usually ends with a pitch and winning a prize of some sort. So I started with 10 years cross-industry consumer marketing experience from Hertz Rent-A-Car, global campaigns leveraging design systems for translations and taking into account cultural nuances, but also to localize digital campaigns like Ford Fiesta's Ready Pa Tu Mundo, exploring microcultures of Spanglish-speaking young Latinos. But 5 years ago, I began facilitating hackathons for global corporations like WellPay and Rolls-Royce at hackathon agencies, then independently for the past 3 years. So I've seen firsthand the positive side of globalization, multiculturalism, knowledge exchange, and innovation, and strongly embrace it. Decades of globalization has facilitated the trades of goods and services crossing borders, creating massive opportunities and excitement. But recently, difficulties have been destabilizing globalization in the physical world. And organizations are strengthening supply chains by domesticating operations and looking inwards again. This is illustrated through Brexit. But also, globalization has been terrible for the environment. And culturally, globalization is also partly to blame for homogenizing products and diluting culture. The competitive individualistic ideals of globalization contradict many collectivist societies who might adopt Western capitalist individualistic norms. It's a massive influence. Now globalization is more about digital and economic integration through technology. Or as the World Economic Forum puts it, at a time of hyperconnectivity in the virtual world, the physical world is proving to be less joined up. So what does this mean about the future of globalization? Well, this cool diagram from the World Economic Forum predicts and maps out 4 future scenarios for economic globalization by 2027, so not too far away. So we're looking at the virtual and physical integration versus fragmentation. There's 4 different scenarios that appear. Firstly, the dark blue scenario 1, Globalization 5.0 reconnection, is an optimistic view of strengthened regional and global alliances. So, increased diversification of supply chains and the adoption of renewable energy and greener metals made possible through increased cooperation. Scenario 2 in pink has physical integration, but due to tech competitiveness between major powers and discontent over cultural and cybersecurity consideration, there are tightened regulations, stronger state control over digital freedom of speech, and increased risk of misinformation. Conversely, in scenario 3, digital dominance, the light blue one, there's localized supply chains, but all the major economies are aligned on digital services, tax frameworks, cybersecurity, and privacy regulations. So there's a strong global activity in technology-enabled work and data and research cooperation. And finally, in orange, we have systemic fragmentation. With higher independence and reduced cooperation, we see a divergence of knowledge and prolonged stagnation across economies. We really don't want this. So, as an optimist, it's more important than ever to collaborate on an international level. Fortunately, indicators are showing this is possible. The globalization of talent through remote workers, improved labor laws, spearheaded and adopted by startups and corporations alike, but also increased cultural awareness across generations, and the democratization of design. So I'm not talking about everyone having a Canva account, because we all know that designers do more than this. But collaborative design and innovation involving non-designers in the design process is key to have a more globalized digital sphere. So the democratization of design is not that anyone can design a new solution and replace well-trained, experienced designers, but it's about involving non-typical designers in the design process. It's about shifting mindsets to a more involved design thinking process where different departments understand what is needed for a successful product or solution. So, innovation sprints and hackathons use design thinking process quite heavily. This is the design process. So, discover, define, ideate, decide, design, and test. It's a proven method to create user-centric solutions. The reason it works well in hackathons and design sprints is that you bring in diverse voices to work together in a highly processed method. Say the challenge was new eco-friendly solutions for holiday travelers. The discover part would involve gathering customer insights and possible data sets that could be used, or looking at existing travel apps, or integration with airline apps, or understanding what causes carbon emissions, or like what innovations actually make a difference to carbon emissions. Once you've looked at all this discovery and insights, the team will then be able to define their key problem statement. In this case, they have defined it to be one statement: how might we help travelers measure the impact of their flight using external data, for example? Then they can brainstorm multiple solutions to this one problem statement. So having a diverse team here is really beneficial than just one designer working alone or with a team of just designers. So a field worker might be focusing on carbon efficiency solely. The data scientist might identify relevant data sets to play with. The marketer might have seen some cool external examples that they could replicate. And a finance intern might share more gamification ideas. And a developer might already suggest 20 different APIs to integrate. So you can end up with hundreds of ideas potentially, but when they're all categorized and prioritized, it's easier to collectively decide on the most impactful solution to build. So once you've decided what you're going to build, you can plan it out, delegate tasks, and build this solution over 2 days or 5 days, depending if it's a hackathon or a design sprint. And then you would present it back and iterate and do the whole process again. But the different points of views lead to more diverse ideas. And a higher quantity of diverse ideas is crucial to the innovation process. So using diversity as a force for design is very important. Also, to ensure cultural sensitivity and to celebrate diversity. But we're talking about digital products, but physical products and services won't just disappear. So I just wanted to share this quote from the European Commission. As 80% of a product's environmental impacts are determined during its design phase, today it's time to redesign with circular economy principles and embrace systems thinking to rethink all of these product or service-related impacts. Circular design changes problems into opportunities, such as waste into a resource. Yes, circular design is so exciting. This is an example of a linear material flow for a laptop. So taking raw materials and just using it and then coming out the end in the landfill. In a circular material flow, you're trying to keep all these raw materials in use for longer. So you will try to use them, repair, refurbish them. Ultimately, you might recycle some of the components, but it's really important. So like in the first instance where you're mapping out the user insights, if you're redesigning an electronic product, for example, you need to map out all the different components that go into this. And that's why it's so complex, because sometimes there are hundreds. Then you need to identify and measure all the material flows and the product circularity. And there's lots of different advanced tools that can do this for you. But it's really important to understand the different flows and the different impact you can have by changing one part of this material flow. Then you would look at the circular economy map and identify where you can make possible changes. With a laptop, for example, most of the changes will be in the technical material cycles. Water and cardboard boxes could perhaps take place in the renewable material flow, but it's likely to be technical. So in this sprint, we identified these three areas. So how can we design for repair? And in circular economy design, the goal is to work with smaller loops. So try and repair frequently and often if needed. You don't want to just design for recyclability, but you should also be designing for recyclability, even if it's the loop of the last resort. So these are some really exciting challenges to be working with. And I would really challenge you to investigate some of these circular design problems and challenges, because it can really make a difference to the future of your organization and to the environment, and can create a more positive impact on the world. So hopefully a globalization 5.0. And I'd like to end with a quote from Chief Oren Lyons of the Turtle clan of the Onondaga Nation. Now that we know about DNA, you understand that we are only just a few genes apart from the flower. You know that. The DNA of grass and the trees are almost the same as humans. Well, we knew that. We knew that long ago. That's why we said they are our relations, all our relations. What you call resources, we call our relatives. If you can think in terms of relationships, your relatives, you're going to treat them better, aren't you? So you've got to get back to their relationships, because that's your foundation for survival. So I'd like to thank you all for listening to my talk, and I hope that you can work out how to enable a positive global mindset through your organization. Thanks so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Maria, for that informative presentation. Now, let's briefly highlight who we are here at Silver Consulting and the power of diversity within us as a team. We're proud of our team and view its diversity as a secret ingredient to Silver's success. We'll be right back after this.
Our second speaker is a design system product manager at Ring Central. He is a value-driven product person with 15 plus years of experience in product design, development, and strategy. With a personal commitment to a great customer experience, he constantly strives to understand and influence the whole for criticism, repair, and innovation. Also, fun fact, he's the person who brought the proper Urdu language to 2 billion iOS devices. So let's give him a round of applause, Mudassir Azeemi.
Hello, I'm presenting culture intelligence in product design today. My favorite topic these days, basically. So who am I? I'm Mudassir Azeemi, currently working as a design system product governance at Ring Central Incorporation. Thanks for having me and encouraging me to share my ideas related to cultural intelligence in product design. Let's begin. Today, I will share with you two stories, that's it, and few bits of lessons that we can extract out of them. So my only complaint right now with the Silicon Valley companies are still they do not demonstrate cultural intelligence, and they tend to focus more on left to right languages and mostly like trying to get more Western culture or copying pasting existing content over there. Let's find out. So first story, San Francisco Airport. So I hail from one of the largest metropolitan city in the world known as Karachi, which is in Pakistan. So back in 2002, I flew from Karachi to San Francisco Airport. When I landed at San Francisco Airport after my long haul flight from Karachi, Pakistan, imagine 28 hours. Now, two layovers, one was in the Bangkok and then another one was in Taipei. So when I landed, while walking from the jet bridge, I was exhausted toward the immigration counter and I needed just 5 to 10 minutes to lay down. I saw a sign which reads restroom. That sign was a sight to sore eyes, but I was perplexed, a little confused that there was a men's restroom and then there was a woman's restroom. I was like, I think what I have learned that the Western civilization is all about inclusiveness. Why there is a segregation for a simple thing, which is to rest. So my mind was weaving an environment. There must be some comfy sofas or reclining chairs. I will lay for 5 minutes. So I'm going to put the alarm on my pocket PC and then I will take a 15 minutes quick nap and then I'll wake up. But once I entered into the restroom, I burst into the scariest laugh ever. It was a big fail, a culture dissonance. The language barrier, maybe. Why? Because airports are the international destination, especially if they are in the big cities. I'm from Pakistan, and there we use the word toilet or lavatory or latrine because of the British English influence. So here's an opportunity to improve those tiny nuances, at least to those touristy places that are international destination. So this was my first story, a cultural shock for me. So let's talk about the second story. Fast forward to 2017 when iOS 11 introduced along with iPhone 10 by Apple Incorporation. It was a big deal for me and 500 million souls around the world who speaks Urdu language. My struggle, which begins in 2008, saw a superb outcome. That struggle was bringing the Urdu language on iOS devices. So how it began? So let me share the detail, how things started. My godfather, as you see in the picture, asked me that how to write the Urdu language on iPhone. And I was able to help him by creating an app known as Urdu Writer. This helped my mom And all those 40 plus people around me at that time to communicate with their relatives on Facebook, Twitter, SMS, and email in Urdu language. So, but there was an issue I noticed. I start hearing complaints from them. The complaints mostly about the readability. It was related to the typeface which was used for Urdu language on iOS devices. So typically the Urdu was written before iOS 10, iOS 11 introduced in a NUSC and even on other devices today, even on Android as well. And it is hard for Urdu speaker to read, but specific, but not to the Arabic reader. So there are difference, right? So I did an experiment on my iPhone at that time, and then able to craft a proof of concept by tinkering without jailbreaking my iPhone. And then back in 2014, wrote a letter to Tim Cook and explained it to him why Urdu language should have a separate typeface, even though the Unicode derived from the Arabic Unicode. Then when they launched iPhone 10 with iOS 11, Urdu typeface Nastali become part and parcel of the iOS since then. And now it's a default typeface for the Urdu language. So this is another experience that I know I had with this cultural, not too intelligent. So let's talk about stats. But instead of telling you the numbers, let me tell you the story of three big major companies and their failure. So first, Best Buy. Although this big box store chain appeals to Americans, the electronics and entertainment retailers has struggled to gain traction in international markets. According to Business Insider, Best Buy botched its European effort due to a poor marketing strategy and failing to notice that Europeans prefer small shops as compared to the large box stores. And there are many other factors too. eBay. In this industry, the popular e-commerce site, eBay was no match for Taobao, China's heavyweight company. Two Hong Kong-based professors cited Taobao built-in instant messaging system as a reason for its advantage over eBay in China. Reason? Customers wanted to be able to see a seller's online status and communicate with them easily right off the bat, a function which was not seamlessly incorporated into eBay's China at that time. Third, Uber. Uber was expected to rule the world. Investors competed to stake billions in the company on the assumption that it would become the digital market leader. The ride-hailing industry's Google or Facebook style winner take all. So according to Howard Yu, the old playbook is that you set up an algorithm, an app, and launch it everywhere. Forget about making changes for local markets. You rapidly roll out across the world to gain first mover advantage. However, the ride hailing appears to be more of a real world industry enabled by technology. The ones and zeros are important, but the core business is ultimately about real people getting into the real car. As a result, success is dependent on taking into the account local norms and needs. And Dubai-based company Kareem took over the Uber in those South Asian and Middle East market, and we know what happened. Uber end up buying them, right? So how I, as a designer, can build the culturally aware product. So I have 5 ideas which may gonna help you to design the better product if you want to go global. Let's begin. Number 1, biases. So what's the formal definition? It's a definition is a formal term for our culturally skewed perspective. It means that we think our culture practices and customs are the correct standard that other cultures should follow. That's a typical example of bias because I think, okay, if, for example, if we take the idea from the San Francisco story, restrooms, we think, oh, it's a normal way to say to the toilet, but that's not true, right? That's the example of bias. So what we have to do, we have to take this into account. And in some cultures, some culture perceives certain hand gestures or prolonged eye contact as a sign of disrespect, whereas other cultures may assume that those who do not shake hands or look into someone's eyes are being rude or evasive. The assumption that one set of norms is correct may lead to cultural bias when interacting with people from different culture. So remember, your app, your service should be aware of those biases. Number two, nuances. What exactly is culture nuances? The words, phrases, and beliefs that differ between countries and regions are referred to as a culture nuances. For example, in the UK, they will have a biscuit with a cup of tea, while in the US, we eat cookies. These are the small details that distinguish each culture. So, when localizing your website, social media accounts, and marketing material, it is not just the words that you need to consider, but the impact of color and images you use have on your target market. So, be aware of it. Ethics. So ethics are belief about what is right and wrong, whereas culture is the personality of society's shared understanding. So every understanding is founded on a set of belief about what is right and wrong, referred to as a ethos or more commonly a morality. So take this thing into account as well. If you're building something for the Middle Eastern market, so you should be aware of what is norm over there and what are the ethics that they believe or that they follow, right? On an individual level and on cultural level, and as a society as a whole. Number three, AI and machine learning. So how we can utilize it? Very simple. If there is a user who is in China launching my app, so my emojis should be based on that culture, that norm. And should they, like, for example, the thumbs up gesture, right? Means yes, okay, all is good, invest in society, but it's a curse in those, swear word kind of thing in the South Asian countries. So why I can't utilize the AI and machine learning to modify the emojis according to the cultures, according to their ethics and biases. And then, more importantly, time perception. This is my last point about it. Why? Because time is an essential component of society and culture, obviously. So Robert Levine, a psychologist, studied different cultures' attitude toward time. He discovered that the more economically developed countries, such as the United States, Germany, Japan, are fast-paced. That is, they place a high value on time because time is money. Underdeveloped countries, on the other hand, move slowly. Time is more relaxed in cultures such as the Middle East, Latin America, Eastern Europe, and they are more focused on family and social activities. So that's why if you go to India or Pakistan or something like this in these kind of areas, so the stores open a little late in the daytime. So, however, these orientations are not always as clear. For example, while the Japanese value time and punctuality, they are a fast-paced living culture that values social relationships. Thus, people's attitudes toward time are influenced by their culture, traditions, beliefs, and socioeconomics. So this is what we have to take care of, take into notice while we are designing our app. So thank you so much for listening. If you have any question, you can either reach out to me on the LinkedIn or on Twitter. Have a good one, guys. Have a superb one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mudassir, for such an enlightening talk, and thank you for tuning into our virtual event today. Thank you to our speakers for helping us better understand how much of an impact globalization can make in today's day and age and how we can use that to our advantage. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments down below. And for more information about us, visit our website at www.silverconsulting.com. And once again, thank you everyone for tuning into our webinar today. Have a wonderful day.